I am so happy to see a few of you here. No, just kidding. You can also move up if you want. It feels really empty up here. And you can all move up and make the room feel a little warmer, but no pressure. Okay, so my name is Julie Solar, and I am very excited that Abdul has asked me to co-host Speakeasy Storyteller series. This is our inaugural show, and the theme is, that's how the argument started. People who've signed up on the storytelling list get up to 7 minutes to tell their story, but we don't really have a timer. So, so use your best judgment as to what 7 minutes is going to be.
Well, you'll see me waving my hand and saying,
Right, or he'll use his cane and try and drag you off the stage. Right, okay. And make sure to get drinks. You can get up and get drinks anytime during the show. Don't feel awkward about it at all. It's kind of like we're having a party in my living room here, and so feel free. I guess that's it, right? All right. So I thought of a story to tell you guys today since it's coming close to Mother's Day, and I used to argue with my mother about something a lot. So I thought, well, but before I tell you that story, I have to tell you one thing about me that some of you may already know, but most of you don't. Abdul wanted me to tell you that I am a certified drug dealer. Okay, good. Okay, phew, got that out of the way. I have been kind of in the medical marijuana thing for like 4 years and having a lot of fun with it, but also learning a lot about how it works and everything like that. So, but I didn't start like that. I grew up in the 80s in the whole just say no era with Nancy Reagan and the war on drugs and all of the propaganda in the schools. So, like that iconic ad with the frying pan, and you hear the male voice going, "This is your brain," and then there's eggs in it, and they go, "Ksh, this is your brain on drugs." And I bought it hook, line, and sinker. And I thought, I am never going to do drugs because I was an animal rights activist and vegetarian, and I was a real nerd, and I wanted to go to like a really good college and so that people would listen to me about my political beliefs. And I didn't think anybody in my family would do drugs. Well, little did I know. After college, I moved back home with my mom to try and figure out my life and get my shit together. And my mom, by now, had become an international businesswoman. She was this little gray-haired Jewish lady who liked to wear matching pantsuits with little vests with little paisley that all matched, and she would fly. She started as a gardener, literally in the experimental greenhouse of a company, and now she was an executive, and she would fly to London to go to business trips. And after one of these business trips, I came home, and it smelled, there was a terrible smell in the house. And the smell was coming from the TV room. And it smelled like a family of skunks had moved into the closet in the TV room. So I open the door of the TV room, and I go in, and I open the closet. It was one of these sliding door closets. And I look, and there's this little tiny greenhouse with a little light in it. My mom is trying to grow a marijuana plant in the closet in the TV room. And this is how the argument started. I was like, "Mom, you can't grow drugs. You're my mother. You can't be doing drugs and growing." And it was like, there was a lot of tension between us. And the tension came to a head when she, being a gardener, had also wanted to grow them outside in the backyard. And I had been seeing a therapist at the time, and he told me, "You do not have to be her enabler." So I said, "I will not water your plants." And then that made some more tension in the family because it made my sister have to come all the way back from San Francisco to El Cerrito to water the plants while I was in my room. Okay, so I knew really the issue was I had to get my shit together and move out. And so I did. I moved to San Francisco, and where I didn't have to be constantly reminded of my mom and her drugginess. So that was fine for a while until one day my mom calls me up and she says she's having trouble buttoning her button. And I had been reading at the time a book that was a bestseller. It was like a self-help book called Tuesdays with Maury. And I don't know if y'all know this book. It's about ALS, a guy with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. Anyway, so I was, you know how when you're reading something and you start thinking you might have it and you start like always seeing it, you get kind of paranoid. So I said to her, God, I hope it's not ALS. And that was the first sign of it. It was her motor control and her thumb was starting to go. And when she got her official diagnosis that she had Lou Gehrig's disease, it's a death sentence, it's really awful, I decided this is time for me to drop all my shit about drugs and like come together with my sister and really be with my mom. And so we knew we wouldn't have a whole lot of time left, so we thought we'd take a family vacation, and my mother was really into Buddhism at that time. And I thought, well, maybe you want to go to Tibet, or maybe you want to go to Nepal or India. And she said, Amsterdam. And so I'm like, okay, we're going to Amsterdam. So we bundled up in the middle of winter. Me, my sister, and my mother, we went to Amsterdam for like a weekend. And it was fun. And I smoked weed with my mom in one of the coffee shops there. And it was so strong that all I wanted to do was go back to the hotel and go to sleep, which is what I did. But it was a fun little trip. And so I would visit her a lot, and I would try to always, spend a lot of time with her and really get to know her before she couldn't talk anymore. And on one of my visits, was about 6 months later, she tells me to take her frequent flyer miles, because she's never going to be able to use them, and go back to Amsterdam and bring her her favorite hash. And this is right after 9/11. And I'm like, Mom, it's fine for you to smoke it and use it. I'm totally fine with that. I'll go to Amsterdam, but I don't know if it's fine for me to bring it back. Like, airport security and all this crazy stuff with the airports and travel and everything. So she says, don't worry, I have a foolproof method. And she hands me a bottle of Clairol Herbal Essences hair conditioner that comes in an opaque pink bottle, and it's very floral. It smells like this artificial rose flavor, and she tells me to take it with her. And I'm only going to Amsterdam for like a weekend. I don't need an entire bottle of shampoo, but apparently nobody cares. So she gives me a map of her favorite coffee shops, and I go to Amsterdam in the winter for a weekend. And I go to all these different coffee shops, and I get the hash that she wanted, and I buy a box of condoms, and I go back to my hotel room. Now, I know some people have dirty minds here, but what you're supposed to do is you take the Clairol Herbal Essences shampoo conditioner, and you pour it into that little cup that they have at the hotel, and then you take the condoms, and you put the baggies of hash into the condoms, and then you poke all the condoms back down into the hair conditioner bottle, and you pour the pink stuff on top, and you seal it up, and you throw it in your checked luggage, and that, my friends, is the foolproof method. And that worked really great for a little old gray-haired Jewish lady on a business trip. But here I am, 30 years old, and I went to Amsterdam for 2 days, and then when I get back at San Francisco International Airport, my bag does not come off the baggage carousel. Right. Oh, God. And I'm like, shit, what do you do when you, I go into the little office in the back, and I'm like, my bag. And they're like, oh, yeah, we have it. And we have to x-ray it again. Okay, so my armpits are sweating now, and I'm really nervous, and I'm thinking, okay, well, what do you do when you don't want to seem guilty? You offer to help. So I said, do you want me to open it? And they said no, and they put the bag on the belt, and it goes through the machine and comes out the other side, and nobody saw any baggies of hash in a shampoo bottle. And so I grab it, and I just get the hell out of there, and I go all the way back down to El Cerrito, and I pour out the shampoo. And we cut open the baggies of hash. Because my mom is smiling. She's got this big shit-eating grin on her face, sitting in her wheelchair. And I put all the baggies of hash out on the counter, and I'm like, look, this is from this place, and this is this place. And they were perfect. And she was so happy, and I was so happy for her. And she used that for the rest of her time. She would use it, and I'm sure it helped her with so many different aspects and different ailments of the process of becoming paralyzed. You know, and I remember one time I wanted to record her before she couldn't talk again, and I thought, I'm gonna go over there to El Cerrito, and I am gonna smoke weed with Mom again and see, I'm gonna do it. And I get in there, and it smells like weed in there, and I'm going, and I'm like, Mom, have you been smoking weed? And she looks at me with these big puppy dog eyes, and she says, I haven't been able to smoke in months. And so I'm like feeling, oh my God, I didn't want to hearken back to the time of our like tension. So I drop it, and I just, you know, when you go home after not being home for a while and you're hungry, you kind of root around in the fridge for something to eat. So I decide to make some eggs, and there's a pan already on the stove, and so I crack my eggs into it, and I'm scrambling my eggs, and I eat my eggs, and then I turn on the recorder, and I sit down with my mom to have a talk. And it's a really good talk, you guys. It's like no longer me relating to somebody my mother who's dying. It was like relating to a wise older person who really knew what was up. Like, what is the important thing in life and what to focus on. And I was so grateful for that, and I started feeling really connected to her, and really kind of warm, and my head got kind of hot. And I was like, you know, this is so great, Mom, but when I came in, I did smell weed. And you said you haven't been able to smoke it. So, like, what do you do with the hash? And she said, I melt it in butter. And I said, like on the stove? Like in the pan that I just made my eggs in? And I said, great, I don't need to get stoned, I am stoned. And that was a really sweet moment I'll never forget. And, you know, like I said, you know, she was using it on the regular for everything from the pain to the insomnia. She had a feeding tube in her belly. And now it's many, many years later. She passed away in 2002. And now, as for me, well, I don't have really anything wrong with me, but I'm sure there's something wrong with me that's the reason I use it all the time, like for a mood lift, and to deal with Trump, and to help me sleep when I'm wound up, and to make my friends funnier. And so I think I've come a long way since then. The world has changed, so have I, and I think today my mom would be really proud of my very special garden. Thank you. All right, and I'll hand it back to Abdul. Hit me up if you want some weed.